next reader is an immigrant artist, stand-up comic, clumsy poet, and educator based in Chicago. She is a poet in residence with the Chicago Poetry Center. She is a Leo sun, Virgo moon, and only trusts restaurants where the cooks are simultaneously FaceTiming family. You can catch her around the city doing shows and find her on Twitter at @CyborgStuti. Put your hands together for Stuti Sharma.
Thank you. Give it up for yourself for being here. Thank you so much. All right. Well, I'm a very comic performer, so when I say give it up for yourself, you clap for yourself. The comedian comes out a lot. So I am going to do some poems for you guys today, but I will do jokes because that's kind of the expectation when I show up places. So make some noise if you were raised religious. Does anybody religious? I was too. I wanted to be a pastor, but then when I saw that at church, they were like, well, honey, you can be a pastor's wife. So now I do this. Which is why I believe in the God of second chances. Alright, so this poem is untitled, but I wrote it first day of National Poetry Day. When Jonah defied the will of God, avoided Nineveh and stowed away in a boat of sailors on the way to Tarshish, the Bible says that God drove him to the belly of the whale. 3 days and 3 nights he swam in whale guts, his feelings probably. Ponds of krill floated by his feet. My God is a gentler force, but she too drives me to places when I defy my breath. She sent me to the belly of a poem, poems I've written, bits and pieces sifted through whales' teeth, beached blubber bone. I find use for the walls around me. Nightly I dream of swimming with whales. I'm swallowed too by the poems I've fallen into, discovered by others in submarines. Being in the belly of a poem, driven by God or kindness or power, is like falling in love. You don't know you're headed there until you've arrived. For now, the poem's belly is a sanctuary, a liminal space that smells of home and sometimes whale innards, a whole menagerie slowly digesting. Who knew that being fossilized could be a blessing? Or delicately broken down till every piece of me that can nourish becomes the poem's blood. Thanks so much. So I'm not sure what it is with America and closing borders. That was my favorite bookstore. I'm an immigrant. Make some noise if you are an immigrant as well, or an immigrant child of immigrants. We got a couple of us. Cool. I'm an immigrant. I came to this country from Nairobi, Kenya, with only $3 in my pocket. I was 5 years old at the time, so I was doing okay. I still only have $3 in my pocket, and that's because I'm a millennial. So there's this thing, give me some snaps if you know what self-deportation is. A couple of us do. It was Mitt Romney's foreign policy. Self-deportation, what I'm talking about this, so I talk about being an immigrant in comedy because as people of color, we're often expected to tell our stories from a place of pain. That's what sells. People want to hear our gritty, dark stories, but for me, my joy is worthy. I am worth being paid for to talk about being happy. But at the same time, the immigrant experience, like many marginalized experiences, that doesn't deny our trauma. So there's a thing called self-deportation, which you're not necessarily on ICE's radar, but it becomes so impossible for people to live here, whether they're DACA, whether they're undocumented, whether any of that, they just decide to go back home, risking death, risking lots of cultural things. So a friend of mine, Cesar, he went back to Guadalajara, so I wrote this poem for him. It was, he wrote part of it because he wrote tweets and they inspired me, so. This is for Cesar. Blue is a type of music, is the color of the sky, is a way we feel. Goodbyes are never simple, especially with so much left to say. When the knotted country that you call home, when the stump of a sawed tree that you built a house on is not deeply rooted enough. The country you got your first kiss, the country with the final kick, final lick of courage you sealed the envelope. Goodbye. Tiger lilies crushed in your palm. Goodbye to the supermarkets where you brushed against bodies born thousands of miles away. Most cars die at 175,200 if you're lucky, but what's the mileage of a human body? Till we inherit a better earth. Blue is the same color we'll see when we look up. And finally, the stars that hold your gaze are the same that write my fate. When I look at the moon, it's the same snow-capped conspiracy winking at you. Isn't it funny? The moon has no borders that flags fall in space. So I've been thinking about feelings and how I express them a lot. So clap if when you feel angry, you can feel your anger right away. Clap if it takes you a while to feel your anger. We're in the majority here, I'm not surprised. And my body takes a really long time to process emotions, right? But I think that my mind makes up for that by having very specific channels. Like it expresses my anger through my hatred of pigeons. I hate pigeons. They scare me, they're these plump menaces. I once told a friend of mine, and I should add a preface, I've never heard a pigeon before. I love the movie Valiant. I respect their service to many countries. But I was like, Brandon, sometimes pigeons make me so mad. I dream of them just flying in space and then... And he was like, Stuti, they put people away for saying things like that. But I saw a bird die. Birds form in my childhood. It's a lot. But I had a parakeet when I was growing up, and it was named Bubbles after the Powerpuff Girl. And it was just when we immigrated here. But the bird started it got sick. It started sneezing and shit. And you have to understand, I'm from a third world country. You don't really take a bird to the doctor, But we went there, and we went to this place that my mom found on MapQuest. It was 2005. And there's this, it was in Rogers Park, actually, and it was, dark, and have you guys seen Finding Nemo? Yeah. And that scene where the fish burps and there's, green shit everywhere? That was in every fish tank in this place. So we walk in, and there's this old man just standing behind the counter, and we show him the bird, and he doesn't really ask what's wrong with it. He just says, you should give it some brandy. That's what I take when I don't feel good. And I was like, Ma, we have to leave this country. They normalize flying under the influence, inebriated birds. Pigeons would be cops because they're on every street in Chicago, and they usually attack unprovoked. That said, birds influence a lot of my writing, so here's a poem about birds. My heart is a bird, a sparrow maybe, light feathery thing with wings. Ordinary rhythm maybe, but every morning it sings. My heart is a bird, a canary maybe, sent up to calm the unhinged. Caged sunlight maybe, given up on notes to sing. My heart is a bird, a raven maybe, migrating nowhere, never hungry for spring. Heavy and strong maybe, it has more to do than sing. My heart is a bird, a loon maybe, drawn to warmth, treading the brink, belonging nowhere maybe, learn to call rather than sing. Thank you so much. My name is Stuti.